Yo guys, what's up? I'm Brian here doing another video for you guys, and this time I'm taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Starscream, technically part of the Generations line. You can see that on the top here, but anyways, with that said, this is based on the first movie version of Starscream. You can tell because in Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, he had these tattoos, and this one does not have that. And I'm happy that they went with this version of Starscream, because most of the other Starscreams that we got throughout the line had those tattoos. So I'm glad they went back to the very first version of him. Technically, the very first version would be the Protoform Starscream, but you guys know what I mean. Anyways, taking a look at the jet mode, it's pretty cool, but the molding and detailing and the sculpting and the design work is pretty much the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class version, which is funny because they pretty much upscale KO their own figure. So that's pretty funny to kind of imagine. But anyways, taking a look at the alt mode, it's very cool. You can see this kind of blue hue into the plastic. It's got this kind of brownish gray plastic, but then over that it's also got these accents of blue, and I think it works really well. You can see certain points where it kind of stops, but it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too far off, so it's not distracting whatsoever. And it actually shows up some of the detail, like these little bits right here, at least on mine, isn't exactly painted with the blue around that, so you can really see that. You've got a cockpit in there, and it's got a seat. It almost looks like the seat itself is painted inside, so that's pretty cool. And you do have the nose cone, which is a kind of a hard rubbery tip, so it's not going to warp too much, which is good. You can see on the back you've got the weapon. You can pretty much just take that off. It is tabbed on underneath right here, like so. So we can just set that off to the side. And yes, he's got landing gear, which is pretty much the exact same way the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class version had. Now, I like the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class toy a lot. I think that is a very good Starscream, but I thought it was too short for the line. Now, in Dark of the Moon, they tried to shorten down the line and tried to downscale some of the figures, which I was kind of not okay with, but then I kind of grew into it, and I was like, yeah, I like this, because it was kind of cheaper, it was easier to get some of the characters, so I thought, yeah, that's fine. But again, I thought Starscream was way too short for that lineup, and even then, with the Dark of the Moon downscaling. Because you had Megatron that was a Voyager, then, you know, you had Ratchet, which was a Deluxe, and I thought that was fine, but Starscream, I just feel like he shouldn't be in the same league as Bumblebee. He should be a little bit taller than Bumblebee, and it just didn't really work out for me. I still like the toy, and I think as a little thing to kind of mess around with, and, you know, just as a toy itself, it was fine. But I just did not like the scale. I think this is a much better representation of Starscream in Voyager class form, and I think this is probably the perfect scale for him, because with the Voyager and the Leader class Megatrons, he works with that. I still really love the Hunt for the Decepticons Leader class Starscream. I think that is probably the best version of Starscream to date, but this is probably a close second just because it is pretty much that kind of sculpting and molding, because you can kind of tell the Dark of the Moon Deluxe one is kind of loosely based on the Hunt for the Decepticons Leader, so you have that engineering going into this. So I think this is probably the second best version. And then also they did a little bit of tweaking onto this that I do like. You do have the Decepticon logo with the line work on the side there, and then you've also got this right here, which is pretty cool. I do like it. You get the orange cockpit, which looks very nice. And unlike the Dark of the Moon Deluxe, a lot of this brown color doesn't look too bad, because it's kind of like a mix between like a hint of brown, but a lot of gunmetal, if you know what I mean. And I really do like that color scheme. I think it fits. It's definitely way better than the original brown color that was kind of weird. So, with that out of the way, that is pretty much Starscream. You can, of course, plug weapons onto the wings if you want. You could also plug them onto the back right here and right here. Because this was a figure taking engineering from Dark of the Moon. Dark of the Moon had a series with Mech Tech where they used a whole bunch of weapons that had this little gimmick, and then you can also add the weapons to different places. So thanks to that figure and thanks to that gimmick, you could place a whole bunch of weapons onto this toy. So that's pretty cool. That's a lot of fun. With that said, Starscream's very nice. He feels good in my hands. Like he feels pretty strong, but these wings like to move around a little bit. I wish there was some way to click them in place, but as it stands, it's fine. And I even like the light gray going against the wings. I think that is fantastic. I really like this Starscream. And you can also plug him onto one of the stands, so that's cool. You can have him in a flying pose, and you can fold up the landing gear for that, so that's cool. All the landing gear at the bottom folds up. And yes, he is pretty kibbly from the bottom, but I really don't mind. This is a very good Starscream, and I love it. So, anyways, with that said, I don't have another figure to really compare it to, unfortunately, in alt mode, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and transform it. And I'm going to lift up the camera, and we're going to transform it now. Anyways, so flip down these back wings. Actually, before we take a look at that, I want to point out, okay, so not in this image, but there are stock images of him with a buzzsaw. He does not include the buzzsaw. I think there's going to be a later release with the stripes that might include the buzzsaw, but this one does not have it. It's just this. So anyways, transformation, you flip those down, and you disconnect the legs from this back piece. Actually, it's easier, I'm going to move the wings back, to unhinge or unhook this section, like so. I'm glad that that actually hooks into place. That was a problem with the Dark of the Moon Deluxe class figure. And then, you want to detach this from the legs, like so. You can see the tabs right there will go into the legs like so. You want to untab and flip that all the way up, just like so. Get that out of the way. Next, what I'd like to do is bring this down, like so, and then open this up completely. And this is something that's different from the Deluxe. The original one just had this, but this one has an additional piece that will really help the aesthetic of this figure. So, anyways, bring those out, and then you're going to pop this out. And I do know that he is packaged in his alt mode, so, or in robot mode, I should say, so sorry that I'm going backwards for this toy, but whatever. Just go backwards with the transformation. Anyways, fold up the landing gear. I keep forgetting to fold this back up. And you want to do that first, so that it's out of the way of these bits. But anyways, with that said, what I like to do is continue off with the legs. So the legs like to separate. You bring them around. Make sure the landing gear's out of the way. And then bring the legs down, like so. We'll finish off the legs later on. Open this section up, and that will help you get some clearance out of this. The hand, going back into alt mode, the hand will tab onto this little bit in the shoulder, and then the shoulder itself has a little tab that will go into a little rectangular hole inside there. And I do like the fact that he shows this little spine section. I believe the Fall of Cybertron Deluxe Starscream had the same thing, and I believe the Dark of the Moon Deluxe one has the same thing too. So that's pretty cool. It's almost like a tradition to Starscream that's not necessarily a tradition. But anyways, once you have this, what you want to do is try to rotate the arm back just a little bit. I'm trying to show off this joint right here, and just move that down just a bit, just to try and get that out of the way. Maybe move that down. Try to get everything out of the way, so you can move that out of place. Just keep an eye on what's going on right here. You know, you can fill with it and mess around with it, and just try and get the shoulders out, like so. Bring these sections up, like that. Don't close up the chest just yet. You want to take this section, move it up, and you want to take the head and just pull it back just a bit, just to get out of the way. And then you want to take this little panel, flip that back, and then what I like to do is, there's a double hinge inside here, and what I like to do is move it from this hinge first, and then this hinge. It especially helps when you're going into alt mode, and just keep in mind that the head, okay, so I think I messed up, because when I had the head back, it was not going through that cavity, so I guess you're supposed to leave the head forward like so, and then just push it through, and then just keep an eye out for that, I guess. So I don't really know why it has that joint. Sometimes I've noticed that it will move, but yeah, his head has this weird neck joint, like so. That doesn't really do much. I don't know why it has it. I don't believe the deluxe one had that, so it's just, I guess, another random joint. Anyways, close up the back like so. And then once you have these wing bits up like so, there's a little tab and a little hole right there. You just rotate that up and try to line that into place. And it might be a little difficult, not impossible though. And you just try to get that in place. Sometimes one side's easier than the other. Like so. Okay, so we got that side in. Let's see. Sometimes it doesn't really want to snap in, but it will go in eventually. And then there's little holes right here, and little tabs that will line up. Just make sure that's in place. Like so. Like that. Fold up the crotch like so, make sure everything's in place. Fold up the feet like so. Then take the arms and pull out the hand, and there's another joint right there. And you could rotate the hand however you like. I like to rotate the hand completely around, like so. And there is Voyager Class Starscream in robot mode. I'm sorry, that was a little more complex than I remembered, but there he is in robot mode, and I do like the styling of it. I still think the Hunt for the Decepticons Leader Class version is a lot better than this, but I love the scaling, and this one doesn't really do a bad job either. Now, what I will say is I don't think the dark gray and the light gray works in some places. In some areas, I really don't mind, like the arms are fine, but it's mostly like the head, where you get this metallic gray going inside there, which is fine, but then you also have a huge, massive amount of this kind of the more dullish gray, and it just makes all the other paint applications feel out of place. But what I will say is that the details feel more sharp and sunken in than I imagined, or than I thought it was going to be, so that's good. It really helps stand out some of the paint, because if you have it too rounded off, and you paint like gold or silver onto it, it just sometimes makes it look like it was just, you know, kind of slapped onto the toy without a care. This one just feels like it flows a little easier to the toy, and I like that. You still have the blue and the kind of brownish gray colors going through this. You can definitely see that on the crotch, the differences there. Really nice. I love the orange cockpit, and I love the fact that it actually transforms into the chest. I think a lot of Starscreams need to do that. But other than that, just a really cool looking toy. The back is pretty simple, but that's fine. You know, you don't really have a lot of kibble going on here. The heels are being used from the wheels, so that's good. They make use of that. You can see little thrusters inside here, so I guess you can use that for the robot mode if you want to. You do have some very nice detail going inside here. None of it's really painted, but still very appreciated. I really do like his look, and he feels a little bit wider too compared to that deluxe class version, and I think the extra bits of transformation really help, because when you close up the chest, you don't have these bits, and so it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as triangle as it should be for Starscream, because he's got this weird aesthetic to him. This one helps. Now, I think that he's almost a little too, I don't want to say simplified, But I can't really get him into some really creepy poses. I think it's because of the arm articulation. I wish there was a little bit more going on here. Maybe the ball joint could allow the hand to lift up or something, or maybe I like the ball joint of the original toy more than than the joints going on here. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But I would love to put this guy into some more creepy poses. I also don't think the legs are helping because there's not much you can really do with these legs. I don't know what's with these, but I would like to do more posing with this guy. I really would, but I can't. I don't know. Every pose I think of, I just can't put him in, and I think there's some articulation that's just restricted into this. But he does have articulation. You know, he's got a rotation in the head. He's got a weird joint that moves up and down if you want that. Then this panel can get out of the way. You could put that wherever you want. He's got a joint right here, which really does help. So you have that. You've got rotation here. You also have another shoulder joint. You have rotation right here. You have a joint right here. You have a joint right here, like so. You also have another joint right here if you want to use that. You have a ball joint right here. You have a joint like so, but that's more so for the transformation. Outward, inward, forward, back. Back and forth, even though this knee's a little too loose for my taste. This one's fine, and I can still get him to stand, so I'm not really concerned about that. Rotation here, and another joint here. I think what he needs is a rotation joint up here, and that would really help. And then also a little bit more articulation with the legs. I'm not saying more joints, I'm just saying like this could go further than what it is right now. Because otherwise, you just basically get some of this, and it's not really much you can do with. When you rotate this joint, it just makes it look like it's broken. I guess you can try and use that for certain joints like that, or for certain poses like that, but I don't know. Just I feel like it needs more. I do really like the red in the eyes. I think that's really cool, and just overall, he feels kind of thick too. Now, he's actually hollow inside here, but because he's kind of blocky, you can feel the thickness of this toy, and you know, that's nice. And he's also feeling kind of big, you know, compared to some of the other Voyager class figures. He's probably not that tall, but when I compare it to the first movie, Starscream, they don't feel so far apart. Like, the camera's not really picking that up, but when I'm looking at them right now, from my point of view, he looks pretty close. Like, these look like maybe 5 years apart. You know, how everything's being downsized and not as gimmicky because that's taking too much of the toy and the money and the budget and whatnot. I almost feel like this toy is just 5 years apart, not just 10 years apart. So that's cool. Definitely doesn't beat the Leader Class Starscream, I will say that, but let's take a look at the Dark of the Moon one. And as you can see, this one just seems a little more streamlined to me, I don't know, and also has this weird brown on the mouth. I do appreciate the blue on the face, but compared to the Voyager one, it looks so much better. It also kind of looks a little more creepy, I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I think this one really takes the cake. I still love my deluxe one, you know, I still mess around with it. It's a small little toy that's fun to play around with, even though it's getting a little messy. Still, enjoyable. I just think this is a much better upgrade. You also have a backdrop that you can place right here and have Starscream on that. It is the Mission City Battle, and he's got jets above him. And those jets are not the ones that were in the movie. Those are definitely not F-22s. But it's still a pretty cool battle scene. You get some explosions and cars being blown up. I think that's cool. And then, of course, you've got the weapon. So, you can take the weapon and you can plug that onto the back like so. You can plug that onto the wings right here if you want. You can plug that onto the side of the arm right here like so. It's got the peg for that. And then I believe, I might be wrong, but you could... No, that's not really plugging in, but it does look like another peg hole for these, which is weird, but might be possible. You could also if you want, give him weapons in the armpits. I don't know why you want to do that, but you can do that. But the main thing that you're supposed to do is fold up the hand like so. Take the weapon, it's got these tabs on the back, plug that in like so, and there you have Starscream with his arm cannon weapon. Just like one of the first scenes with Starscream in the first movie, where he's on the dam and he's shooting rockets out, and that looks very cool. I really do like that. I'm messing up on my words today. I also like the blade sticking out. I think that's pretty cool. But with that out of the way, that is pretty much Starscream. So, do I recommend this toy? Yes, I do. I think if you like the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class version, but you want a bigger version of that toy, but not as big as the Hunt for the Decepticons Leader Class, and you don't mind buying another Starscream, I know that's a lot to say, but then yes, I would definitely recommend this. Or you missed out on the previous Starscreams, I'd say go ahead and get this. I would love to see this in the Skywarp color scheme, and I know they're probably not going to do a Thundercracker one because they decided to do that out of Nitro for some reason. But he still looks very cool. I am very impressed with this. Another Starscream, and he looks really cool. I like him. So with that out of the way, that is pretty much it. I thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and all those fun dude.